Have you been following our podcast and thinking about trying to work on your finances, but you're feeling overwhelmed? You just can't seem to take that first step. Maybe it feels like something is holding you back or standing in your way. I had a big realization in the past few years. This one thing helped me take the first step and keep going. Stay tuned and see if this can help give you the freedom to get started. Hi, everyone. This is the Debt Free Dad podcast, where we help you take control of your finances so you can live a happier, less stressful life. I'm Kati Hatfield, and I'm excited to be your host for today's episode. I have been on my journey to debt freedom for almost 6 years. And in that time, I have paid off over $163,884 in student loans, credit cards, car loans, medical bills, and on top of that, saved thousands of dollars, all on a single income. And when I started this journey, I was barely making $13 an hour. I have tried to pay off debt prior to joining the Debt Free Dad program, and I did well. I paid off $22,000 in debt on my own before, but I kept falling into the same bad habits. And when I joined this program, that was the very first thing that they talk about changing is your mindset and your behaviors. What I've found has been that I tend to have kind of ADHD tendencies. So I'll get really excited about something and I'll do it for a while. And then I kind of fall off the bandwagon and kind of forget about it. And I go and start doing something else. And that just kind of gets put in the back burner. And I knew I needed to stop doing that. I still do it to some extent, but I always felt like if I can't do it 100% perfect and I have to do it right away, what's the point in even doing it? I guess I've always been taught do it right the first time or triple check to make sure you did everything before you hand it in and submit it. So I tend to have those perfectionist tendencies. And I feel like that's held me back a lot of the time because I'm like, well, if I can't do it 110% and have it just perfect, exactly how I want it on the first try, I'm not going to do it. And I think that holds a lot of us back. We tend to have those perfectionist tendencies, or we just have to know all the things up front before we even take that first step. So, my advice today is just take that teeny tiny first little step. Do a crappy budget. That's what we teach here because guess what? Your first budget is never going to be perfect. In fact, your first 6 months of budgets probably aren't going to be perfect. You're going to throw out numbers that you think, oh, yeah, I can't possibly spend more than that on going out to eat or groceries in a month. And then you add up all those receipts at the end of the month and go, oh, yeah, that was not at all even in the ballpark. So just sometimes taking one tiny little step and not having to do it perfectly, not knowing what you're doing necessarily the very first time. And yes, messing up, having a failure, learning. I always say you're either winning or you're learning. So there's not a failure here. It's just, okay, that didn't work. So we'll try again. So it's always a matter of do it. You're either going to take a step ahead or you're going to learn a lesson and you're going to have to do it again. So it's always taking that next step, taking the next step, taking the next step. When I got into this, my budgets, I had to have a spreadsheet with a template and it had to do all the math calculations and formulas for me. But then I also had to stick to it. Writing a budget is one thing, sticking to a budget is another. So I definitely made some very crappy budgets. I erased a lot. I had to adjust my numbers a lot. I've had to do it every month for going on 6 years now, and guess what? It doesn't always work out still. And I've been doing it for a pretty long time. You'd think I'd be, an expert by now, but life happens and it's not always going to look the same from month to month to month when it comes to your finances. Around Christmas, there's gifts and maybe I spent a little extra, or my license and registration are due in January and oops, I forgot. So I paid in February and I had to pay a late fee. Those kind of things just, add up. So you have to be able to just put in the effort without necessarily thinking, I have to do it perfect every single time. That holds a lot of us back. Just do something. Take that first little tiny step, sit down, print out your receipts, or gather the little pile of receipts that are in the bottom of your purse. Print out your bank statements, your credit card statements, see where your money is going. And you'd be surprised. That's sometimes the only thing that people need to do to actually be like, okay, I have a problem. And you have to be able to admit you have the problem. Guess what? You probably are the problem. And that takes a lot to look in the mirror and say, yep, I did this to myself. It wasn't, you know, the job I don't make enough money at. It's not inflation or taxes, or if I just made this much more money, I'd be debt free, or maybe I'm just going to win the lottery. You have made decisions and they had consequences. I made a lot of bad decisions in my youth, and I still make bad decisions every so often. I'm going to admit that too. I have been on a bit of a spending spree this year, and some of it's been emotional, some of it's been, oh, I've got trips coming up, so I need new things to wear on my vacation. And I don't always make the best decisions. So now I have to take a step back, look at my budget, look at my finances, and say, hey, you, me in the mirror, you need to like slow your roll here and take a step back, get back to checking your account every morning and doing your finances, and maybe lay off the spending here for a month or so until we can kind of not be living on a little bit tighter budget when we are home from vacation. I've been having a lot of fun. That's okay. You have to have fun on this journey too, but you also have to know when you need to rein it in a little bit. So, again, take that first step. When you listen to all of our Roots members who have paid off thousands of dollars, and I've done it myself, and it's taken a lot of time, and I'm still making mistakes, but when you hear Brad interview them and ask, what would you tell the you before you started, ver- knowing what you know today? And every single one of us have said, I wish I just had started sooner. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had taken that first step sooner. So, why are you letting anything hold you back? Just sit down, make 15 minutes, an hour, just sit down and do it. And hopefully that will help you just get started and hopefully keep the momentum going. You just have to take that first step. So until next time, if you need some help, reach out to us. We are happy to give you some ideas. Our Life Without Payments group on Facebook, or joining our Roots program, just go to debtfreedad.com, listen to the podcast, but just get started. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for listening.